Who was Kösem Sultan, the woman who rose to become the most powerful figure in the Ottoman Empire? How did this extraordinary woman manage to wield such vast influence in an empire ruled by men? What strategies and alliances helped her maintain her power over several decades, and what challenges and dangers did she face in a court rife with intrigue and conspiracy? Hello, and welcome to Tras la Invención. In this video, we're going to explore the fascinating and powerful life of Kösem Sultan, a figure whose influence on the Ottoman Empire was unmatched. How did she become the mother and regent of sultans, shaping the fate of an empire from behind the throne? What role did she play in the political and military decisions of her time? How did she handle rivalries within the harem and the court to maintain her grip on power? And what legacy did she leave in Ottoman history, remembered as one of the most powerful and influential women of the empire? Join me on this journey through the corridors of Ottoman power, where we'll uncover the strategies, struggles, and triumphs of Kösem Sultan. Get ready for a story of power, intrigue, and survival that will keep you captivated until the very end. Kösem Sultan, born as Anastasia around 1589 on the Greek island of Tinos, was a woman whose humble origins stood in stark contrast to the power she would later wield at the Ottoman court. Her family was of Orthodox Christian background, and like many young women of the time, she was captured by the Ottomans during a raid on her homeland. Anastasia was taken to the Imperial harem in Istanbul, where her destiny would change forever. In the harem, she received a thorough education that included learning the Turkish language, Islam, and the customs and protocols of the Ottoman court. These skills were not only essential for her daily life in the harem, but also provided her with the tools she needed to navigate the political and social complexities of the imperial environment. She quickly stood out for her intelligence, cunning, and beauty, catching the eye of the young Sultan Ahmed I. Upon entering the imperial harem, Anastasia was renamed Kösem, a name that would become synonymous with power in Ottoman history. Her new name, meaning leader or guide, foreshadowed the role she would play at the Ottoman court. Far from being merely a place of seclusion, the harem was a center of power, where the most influential women could exert great sway over the sultan and, by extension, the empire itself. Kösem quickly became Ahmed I's favorite consort, marking the beginning of her rise to power. Unlike many other consorts, Kösem was not content to simply remain the sultan's favorite. She used her closeness to him to gain influence and secure a position of power within both the harem and the court. Kösem Sultan demonstrated exceptional skill in navigating the complex hierarchy of the harem. She leveraged her personal relationships, intelligence, and deep understanding of Ottoman politics to consolidate her standing. Her relationship with Ahmed allowed her to bear several children, including future sultans, which further strengthened her position within the harem. The harem was a fiercely competitive environment where women vied for influence and power through their connections to the sultan and their ability to manage court intrigues. Kösem not only survived in this atmosphere, she thrived, forging strategic alliances with other women in the harem and with powerful eunuchs. She succeeded in consolidating her control over the harem, ensuring that her sons were the preferred heirs to the throne during Ahmed's reign. Kösem Sultan wielded considerable influence over Ottoman politics. Unlike other consorts who might have been relegated to passive roles, Kösem was actively involved in matters of state, using her relationship with the sultan to shape his decisions. This influence was made possible by Ahmed's trust in her and her keen ability to understand and manipulate the political dynamics of the court. Kösem Sultan was not merely a consort, but also a close advisor to the sultan. Through her persuasion and diplomacy, she helped shape both the internal and external policies of the empire. Her ability to counsel the sultan on critical matters, from imperial administration to diplomatic relations with other powers, was key to her rise to power. This proximity to the sultan allowed her not only to consolidate her own position, but also to lay the groundwork for her future regency. Ahmed's death in 1617 marked a turning point in Kösem Sultan's life. Even though her husband was gone, her influence did not wane. On the contrary, her status as the mother of several princes granted her significant power. Instead of withdrawing from public life, as was customary for the widows of sultans, Kösem continued to exert influence through her children, especially when her son Murad IV ascended the throne in 1623. Her son's rise to power marked the beginning of the era known as the Sultanate of Women, during which the mothers of sultans like Kösem wielded unprecedented power while Murad IV was still a minor. Kösem Sultan served as regent, managing the affairs of the empire and proving her ability to govern in a male-dominated environment. During Murad IV's regency, Kösem Sultan became the most powerful figure in the Ottoman Empire. Her ability to govern was put to the test during a time of crisis, with both internal and external conflicts threatening the stability of the empire. Kösem faced these challenges with determination, using her influence to preserve peace and stability throughout the realm. Kösem Sultan consolidated her power not only through political maneuvering, but also by taking control of the empire's finances and administration. Her skill in managing these key aspects of government allowed her to exercise near-absolute authority during her son's regency. And later, during her grandson's reign, the Sultanate of Women began to take shape during the reign of Suleiman the Magnificent, when his wife, Kösem Sultan, emerged as a powerful figure within the empire. This period is marked by the growing influence of the sultan's consorts and mothers, who, due to instability in succession and the youth of the new sultans, began to play a crucial role in the administration of the empire. As the harem became established as a center of power, the women who lived there, especially the Valida Sultanas, began to wield significant authority. These women not only influenced the sultan himself, but could also intervene directly in state affairs, engage in political intrigue, and forge strategic alliances. Kösem Sultan is perhaps the most prominent figure of this era, and her life illustrates how the women of the harem were able to accumulate and exercise political power through their cunning, diplomacy, and deep understanding of Ottoman politics. Kösem Sultan became the central figure of the Sultanate of Women when her son Murad IV ascended the throne in 1623 at the age of 11. Kösem Sultan assumed the role of regent, ruling on his behalf until he came of age. During this regency, Kösem Sultan managed the empire's affairs with a firm hand, confronting internal challenges such as corruption and military insubordination, as well as external threats from rival powers. Despite these difficulties, Kösem Sultan succeeded in maintaining the empire's stability throughout this period. Her ability to govern in such a complex environment and her capacity to make tough decisions cemented her reputation as a powerful and effective leader. After the death of Murad IV in 1640, the next in line was Ibrahim, who suffered from mental instability. Once again, Kösem Sultan played a crucial role in the administration of the empire, using her influence to guide the sultan's decisions and ensure the stability of the government. Ibrahim's reign was turbulent due to his erratic behavior, but Kösem Sultan worked to maintain control over the government and protect the interests of the empire. Her influence was vital in preventing the situation from deteriorating even further, although she was ultimately forced to support his deposition in 1648. After Ibrahim was overthrown, the young Mehmed IV ascended the throne at the age of 7, allowing Kösem Sultan to once again assume the role of regent. During this time, she continued to manage the affairs of state with the same skill she had demonstrated in the past, maintaining the stability of the empire. Despite her efforts, however, her regency during Mehmed IV's reign was marked by internal conflicts and growing rivalries, both within the harem and in the administration of the empire. In the face of these challenges, Kösem Sultan tried to maintain her grip on power, but the situation eventually became untenable, leading to her tragic end. The harem, traditionally seen as a place of seclusion, was transformed during this period into a true center of political power. Women who rose to high ranks within the harem, such as the Valide Sultanas, were able to wield significant influence, using their connections and knowledge to navigate political intrigues, forge strategic alliances, and secure their sons' claims to the throne. Kösem Sultan, like other powerful women of her era, was an expert at managing the intrigues of both the harem and the court. Her ability to form alliances with key figures such as the eunuchs and viziers enabled her to consolidate her power and maintain her dominant position within the empire. The harem became a microcosm of Ottoman politics, where the decisions and alliances forged by women like Kösem could shape the fate of the empire. Kösem's ability to maneuver in this competitive environment stands as a testament to her intelligence and political acumen. During the Sultanate of Women, Kösem Sultan influenced not only domestic politics, but also the empire's foreign policy. Her counsel and decisions affected relations with other powers and the management of the empire's borders. Moreover, Kösem Sultan used her authority to promote internal reforms, oversee the administration, and confront the challenges that arose during her years as regent. Her influence was crucial in maintaining the cohesion of the empire during times of crisis. The unprecedented power wielded by the women of the harem, especially Kösem Sultan during this period, was not without controversy. The influence these women had over state affairs was viewed with suspicion by some factions at court and within the empire, who considered it inappropriate for women to hold such power. Throughout her life, Kösem Sultan faced rivalries and opposition both inside and outside the court. Her efforts to maintain control often brought her into conflict with other members of the imperial family, as well as with viziers and military leaders who resented her influence. These rivalries culminated in her assassination in 1651, an event that brought her reign to an end but also underscored the intensity of the internal struggles for control of the empire. The Sultanate of Women has been the subject of intense historical debate. While some historians view this period as an era of decline marked by the interference of women in politics, others interpret it as a time when the women of the imperial family used their intelligence and political acumen to preserve and strengthen the empire during difficult times. Kösem Sultan, in particular, is seen by many as a figure who managed to maintain the empire's stability in moments of crisis, though her power also attracted enemies and controversy. Kösem Sultan's regency stands as one of the most significant and controversial chapters in Ottoman history. Throughout her life, Kösem Sultan wielded unprecedented influence over Ottoman politics, especially during the regencies in the reigns of her sons Murad IV and Ibrahim I, and her grandson Mehmed IV. These years were marked by a blend of power, diplomacy, intrigue, and conflict, with Kösem Sultan at the center, steering the fate of the empire. When Ahmet I died in 1617, his son Murad IV ascended the throne in 1623 at the young age of 11. Because he was still a minor, Kösem Sultan assumed the regency, a position that gave her full control over state affairs until her son came of age. This regency was crucial, as Murad IV inherited an empire facing serious internal and external challenges, including administrative corruption, military unrest, and pressure from foreign powers. During her regency, Kösem Sultan faced a series of challenges that put her leadership to the test. The internal situation of the empire was tense, with frequent uprisings by the Janissaries, the empire's elite troops, and an administration riddled with corruption. Kösem Sultan demonstrated fierce determination to restore stability, making tough and often unpopular decisions. One of Kösem's most notable achievements during her regency was her ability to manage the Janissaries, who represented both a formidable military force and a potential threat to the empire's stability. Through negotiation, rewards, and at times coercive measures, Kösem managed to keep the Janissaries under control, preventing uprisings that could have further destabilized the empire. Kösem Sultan also devoted herself to improving the administration of the empire. Her rule was marked by a pragmatic approach, as she sought to reduce corruption and improve administrative efficiency. Although not all her reforms were successful, her efforts to stabilize the administration demonstrated her commitment to the welfare of the empire. Kösem Sultan's regency was not without controversy. Her growing power stirred resentment among certain factions at court, including the viziers and other members of the imperial family, who viewed a woman's influence in matters of state with suspicion. During her regency, Kösem Sultan had to contend with powerful rivals within the court, including other members of the imperial family. Since they resented her authority, these rivalries often led to palace intrigue, where manipulation and strategic alliances were essential to maintaining power. Although Kösem Sultan managed to preserve the empire's stability during her regency, her authority was not universally welcomed. Some critics of the time, as well as later historians, argue that the Sultanate of Women, with Kösem at its center, marked a period of decline for the empire, where female interference in politics supposedly weakened the government. However, others maintain that Kösem Sultan acted as an effective leader who protected the empire during a critical phase. Ibrahim, nicknamed Ibrahim the Mad for his erratic behavior, posed a danger to the empire's stability. Kösem Sultan used her influence to keep Ibrahim in check, trying to mitigate his most destructive decisions and ensure that the government continued to function effectively. However, this was a difficult task given Ibrahim's unpredictable nature. The situation with Ibrahim became increasingly untenable as his behavior deteriorated. Kösem Sultan tried to shield the empire from Ibrahim's impulsive decisions, but both internal and external pressures mounted. Ultimately, the crisis culminated in a palace coup in 1648, in which Ibrahim was deposed with Kösem's support, as she recognized her son was no longer fit to rule. Supporting the deposition of her own son was one of the most difficult decisions of Kösem Sultan's life, but it reflected her pragmatism and commitment to the stability of the empire. Ibrahim was eventually executed, and Kösem Sultan once again assumed a central role during the regency of her grandson, Mehmed IV. After Ibrahim's deposition and death, the 7-year-old Mehmed IV ascended the throne, allowing Kösem Sultan to resume her role as regent. During this regency, Kösem Sultan once again sought to maintain control over the empire during a time of crisis. She continued to manage state affairs, facing the challenges of an empire under both internal and external pressure. Despite her advanced age, Kösem remained determined to govern and protect the empire. Although her influence began to be challenged from within the harem, Mehmed IV's regency was marked by growing tensions and rivalries inside the harem. Kösem Sultan, though still powerful, began to face opposition from Turhan Sultan, the mother of Mehmed IV, who also sought to exert influence over the young sultan. The rivalry between Kösem and Turhan Sultan intensified, with Turhan striving to increase her own sway over her son and the empire. This struggle for power became a source of conflict that weakened Kösem's position within the court. The culmination of this rivalry was Kösem Sultan's assassination in 1651, orchestrated by Turhan's supporters. Her death marked the end of her power and closed an era in which she had been the central figure in Ottoman politics. Her murder was a tragic and brutal event, reflecting the fierce power struggles within the Ottoman court. Despite the controversies and the tragic way her life ended, Kösem Sultan's legacy is undeniable. During her years as regent, she demonstrated an exceptional ability to govern in a male-dominated environment, facing challenges that would have overwhelmed many others. Kösem Sultan managed to maintain the stability of the empire during some of its most critical moments, relying on her intelligence, diplomacy, and political acumen. Her regency ensured that the Ottoman Empire remained a formidable power, even during times of internal weakness. Although her regency was viewed with suspicion by some contemporaries and certain historians, the era of the Sultanate of women in general, and Kösem's regency in particular, are remembered as periods when women proved they could be capable and effective leaders. The debate over whether her influence was beneficial or detrimental to the empire continues, but her place in Ottoman history as one of its most powerful and controversial women is indisputable. The death of Kösem Sultan in 1651 was a dramatic event that had profound repercussions on Ottoman politics. Her assassination marked the end of an era in which the women of the harem, especially the Valide sultanas, wielded unprecedented power in the Ottoman court. Kösem Sultan's disappearance left a void in the empire's power structure and triggered a series of changes that affected both the internal dynamics of the court and the administration of the empire in the years that followed. Kösem Sultan's death, orchestrated by her rivals within the harem, particularly the supporters of Turhan Sultan, the mother of Mehmed IV, was met with shock and fear in the Ottoman court. Kösem had been a central figure in imperial politics for decades, and her murder underscored the intense power struggles that raged within the walls of Topkapi Palace. News of her assassination created an atmosphere of uncertainty and tension throughout the court. Kösem Sultan had been a stabilizing force for many, and her absence left the court anxious about the future of the empire and who would fill the power vacuum she left behind. With Kösem Sultan's death, Turhan Sultan emerged as the dominant figure in the harem. This shift marked a transition in the internal power dynamics, where the influence of the Valide Sultanas continued, but under new leadership. Now in a position of control, Turhan Sultan began to exert her influence over her son Mehmed IV and over the political decisions of the empire. Kösem Sultan's death had a significant impact on the administration of the empire. Her absence removed a key figure who had acted as a bridge between the different factions at court and as a mediator in internal conflicts. Without Kösem Sultan, the Ottoman government's ability to manage both internal and external tensions was temporarily weakened. During her lifetime, Kösem had managed to maintain cohesion at court and skillfully navigate political intrigues. Her death left the empire without anyone capable of fulfilling that role as effectively, leading to a brief leadership crisis. With Kösem Sultan's disappearance, the Grand Viziers and other officials began to amass more power, filling the void left by the Valide Sultan. This shift in the balance of power within the court allowed the viziers to take on a more active and dominant role in the administration of the empire, marking the beginning of a new approach to Ottoman governance. Kösem Sultan's death marked a turning point in the perception and role of the Valide Sultanas in Ottoman politics. Although Valide Sultanas continued to be influential figures, none reached the same level of power and control that Kösem had wielded during her life. After Kösem's death, the direct influence of the Valide Sultanas in Ottoman politics began to wane, even as figures like Turhan Sultan continued to play important roles. The Sultanate of women, in its most powerful form, ended with Kösem's death. Later Valide Sultanas tended to have more limited influence, focusing on raising their children and sponsoring charitable works, rather than directly administering the empire. Kösem Sultan's disappearance also led to a restructuring of power within the Ottoman court. The influence of the viziers and other officials increased, and power began to concentrate more in the hands of administrative officials than in those of the court figures. This change represented a transition in the way the empire was governed, with greater reliance on centralized administration and less on personal influence. Kösem Sultan was, without a doubt, one of the most powerful and controversial women in the history of the Ottoman Empire. Her life was defined by an extraordinary ability to navigate politics in a male-dominated environment, becoming the central figure of the Sultanate of women through her roles as consort, mother, Valide Sultan, and regent. Kösem left an indelible mark on Ottoman politics, facing internal and external challenges to the empire's stability with both courage and cunning. Her legacy, though complex, stands as a testament to the influence women could wield at the Ottoman court, and to how Kösem used her position to protect and, in many cases, promote the well-being of the empire. By strengthening the empire during some of its most difficult times, her tragic death not only marked the end of her reign, but also closed an era in which women at court played a central role in the administration of the empire. Throughout her life, Kösem Sultan was a leader who proved that power knows no gender, and that women, when given the chance, can be just as influential and decisive as any man. Her story is a reminder of the complexity and power dynamics of the Ottoman court, and of how one woman was able to change the course of history. Thank you for joining us on this journey through the life of Kösem Sultan, one of the most fascinating and powerful figures of the Ottoman Empire. We hope this video has given you deeper insight into her life, her achievements, her challenges, and her lasting impact on history. Kösem Sultan not only left a legacy in Ottoman politics, but continues to inspire many today as an example of leadership and resilience. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like it and share it with your friends and family who are interested in history. Subscribe to our channel and turn on notifications so you don't miss our upcoming videos, where we'll continue exploring the lives of historical figures and the events that shaped the world. We'd love to hear your thoughts. Which part of Kösem Sultan's life did you find most intriguing? You think her influence was more positive or negative for the Ottoman Empire? Leave your comments below. We read everyone and value your reflections and suggestions. You can also follow us on social media for more content and updates about our upcoming videos. Your support is essential for us to keep sharing our passion for history. Thank you again for watching. We'll see you in the next video, where we'll continue uncovering the most interesting secrets and stories from history. See you soon.